Shalom and welcome to the Middle East Report. We have a special guest joining us from Israel today. He is a hero. Not only is he a former IDF paratrooper, but he's a paramedic. He saved lives and came face to face with Hamas on October the 7th, and this is his story. Warm welcome to the programme, and today's special guest is all the way from Israel. His name is Ophir Tor. He's a former IDF paratrooper and a current paramedic serving with Magen David Adom, as you Israelis like to call it, MADA. So Ophir, warm welcome to the Middle East Report. Such an honour and such a privilege for me to have you in our studios today, and I think our viewers are in for a real treat to understand who you are as a person, but also your heroic deeds that you did on October the 7th makes you a hero not only to Israel but also to Christians who love Israel around the world.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Pleasure. So, Ophir, do you want to start with your story? Tell us your Israeli story. Tell us something about your Jewish family background and what your life was like growing up in Israel.
Well, I was born in Israel, of course. My parents were born in Israel too. The childhood was a very nice childhood until the age of 8. At the age of 8, my father decided that he wants to come and study in England. So I spent some 6 years of my childhood over here. Hence I became even a swimmer in England. And returned at the age of 14 to Israel, doing my secondary school studies, and volunteered to the Israeli paratroopers, who accepted me somehow.
Amazing. So do you want to share with us something about what it's like to be an IDF paratrooper and the training that you have to go through, and what was it about the paratroopers that attracted you to join them?
Well, my father was a paratrooper before me. Sorry. So obviously it's kind of a tradition in a sense, and the challenge, the rigorous training, the mental capacity that you need to have. I think that's mainly what attracted me. So if you can do it, then why not, you know? People who like challenges, I believe, would try to be at the best unit they can.
Yeah, so you were part of the 35th Paratroopers Brigade, correct?
35th, yes.
Yeah. Share with us something about the history of your regiment, because we know that I think the Israeli paratroopers were first deployed in Israel's war against Egypt in the Suez Crisis of '56. But share with us the history of your regiment.
Well, the regiment, or specifically my battalion, which is 890 to be exact, was the first elite unit in the Israeli army, as the country was after the independence of Israel, and it was mainly coined by the English paratroopers. That's why we have red berets. Okay, that's why we call ourselves paratroopers, based on the English version of it. So 890, that's the battalion, was the first unit, elite unit in the Israeli army, and hence all the other units were derived from that unit. So if you have Sayeret Matkal today, they were derived from 890. If it's Sayeret Shaldag, okay, all the units came from 890.
Amazing.
So that's the father and mother of all the special units, except the Navy commandos. I think most of the units came out from 890.
I just share some of the experiences that you've had as a paratrooper, because you've had a very distinguished career in the Israeli Defense Force as a paratrooper, you know, reaching the rank as well as a retired major as well, which is very high ranking. So just share with us some of the experiences that you've had defending the Jewish state, whether against acts of war or against acts of terrorism.
Well, so I enlisted in 1981. The Lebanese affair or war was in 1982. We were, my team or my platoon was first deployed via the sea. We came with the Navy. We were launched into the Lebanon on the Awali. So we were basically the first soldiers on the ground, okay, coming from the sea. So from there on, 8 months of war in Lebanon. So we were in Beirut, we were in Bahamdoun, we were in Alay, Damour, we were all in all these places. And after 8 months in Lebanon, we came back home to finish our course. Our course was 17 months long, and I think they extended it to 19 months so we can cover all the schooling that we didn't manage because we were at war.
So share what it was like to fight in that Lebanon war in 82, because we know that the then Prime Minister Menachem Begin wanted to defend northern Israel from the rockets and missiles that had been fired by Yasser Arafat and the PLO, who are based in southern Lebanon. And Menachem Begin believed that he could, and he did successfully, push the PLO out of southern Lebanon to protect Israel, and wanted to create a peace treaty with the Lebanese, who were then Christian Maronites, and make a peace treaty like he did with Egypt in '79. Share with us what the conditions were like during that conflict in Lebanon.
Well, being a gangster that I was 19 years old, I wasn't much into politics back then. However, what I do recall is that there were two folds for this war. One is to protect the northern border, which had severe missiles being shot at all the time, continuously, from southern Lebanon, as well as the Christian population were being slaughtered. So it was to protect the Christians in the southern part or as a whole, okay? Because they were in civil war before that. Okay, 1976, I think there was civil war, and they got a bad. The Christian population there were what's the word I'm looking for? Marginalized to a degree. Okay, so we consider them as our friends. Hence, if you remember, Major Haddad, who was the head of the southern militia, the Christian militia, and he was basically left out to dry.
Yep.
So the Israelis went in and to help him. Following that was General Antoine Haddad, which I knew personally, and you knew me as well, and that's another story for the future. But as a soldier in the paratroopers, I was my commander, my captain of the company was Nir Barkat, who is today the Minister of Finance in Israel. He, in his own terms, is a war hero, and yeah, he was a very good commander in my book.
Excellent. And also you returned to southern Lebanon with Israel's war against Hezbollah in 2006, and that was a difficult war for Israel. But clearly the IDF gave a real blow to the Hezbollah's terrorist capabilities, because we know they haven't really started a major confrontation since, despite the fact since October the 7th, they've been firing rockets and missiles in. So share your experience of being with the IDF and advising the IDF in that very tough war that Israel had to face back in 2006.
Well, in 2006, I was already a reservist, and I was actually not so active. I was called back for more of research and analysis work to the special forces, the paratroopers and special forces in southern Lebanon, under the jurisdiction of that brigade. So I had to interview the commanders of the units, see what was the mishaps, because in the Israeli army we have this routine where we trace, analyze, and conclude what needs to be further done. How can we better operate in the future, learn from our mistakes, and that was the assignment. There was the Vinograd, the Judge Vinograd commission that was nominated for the task, and so I submitted all my materials that I hence worked for. I think it was 3 or 4 months, accumulating, interviewing, and presenting the facts on the ground.
Amazing. And share with us the tragic event that occurred, that your best friend and comrade was shot and died in your arms, which made you then decide that you wanted to be a paramedic and work for Magen David Adom.
Oh, okay. Okay. In my team was a fellow friend of arms. His name is Oded Israeli, to be, may he rest in peace. He was shot in the belly, and I was already a medic, an army medic then. Okay, in the unit we have our designated functions, and I was back then a medic, so he was right next to me, and I treated him to the best that I could. However, I could not save him, and he died in my arms. Yeah.
And share the emotional impact that has on you, to know that one of your friends and comrades that you fought with just dies in your arms next to you.
Well, that's pivotal in one's life, you know. A friend that is a close friend, a friend that the camaraderie in the paratroopers is for life. Okay, we still see each other. We communicate. All the unit, we communicate almost every day via WhatsApp today. Okay, back then there was no WhatsApp, so we have 2 dates a year that we meet religiously. 2 days a year that we meet religiously, and the funny thing is, when we meet, we don't talk about the issues really. We joke around a lot, but we don't talk about what's eating us, you know. So at some point I understood that this is one of the major incidents. It wasn't the only one, but it was one of the major incidences that was subliminally was making me make decisions or were affecting the course of my life, okay, and the decision making, hence. And so I thought that the best way to remedy that, the best way to deal with it, is not to go to therapy and speak about it all the time, but to actively participate in going back to the position of being a medic, going back, helping other people, and hopefully it will as well heal me as well as help others. Having said that, it was very difficult at first to confront the issue of being a medic. And the more I understood that I have resistance to do it, the more I understood that I need to do it. It's like if you parachute and your parachute doesn't open and you do land somehow safely on the ground, the first thing they do is they put you back on the plane to parachute again. Okay, otherwise you'll never parachute again. Or if a pilot bails out, they don't put him on the plane to fly immediately thereafter, then he will never go into a cockpit again. So in that sense, I understood that that's what I need to do. I need to go back into the cockpit and relive the moments and thereby heal myself. And hence I'm in MDA.
Amazing. And we love the work done by MDA, the Magen David Adom, in saving lives. And over the years, I've had so many incredible guests that belong to MDA, and stories, incredible stories of ambulance drivers literally driving into terrorist zones where rockets and missiles are falling all around them to rescue those who are injured and caught up in terrorist incidents. Absolutely incredible, especially after Israel's war against Hamas in 2014. But you found yourselves in a situation where on October the 7th, where you went right into the thick of the action. Do you want to tell us and unpack for us what happened to you on October the 7th? Just tell us how your day started in what can only be described as the worst mass terrorist attack in Israel's history, where over 1,200 people were murdered that day, over 6,000 injured, and around 250 taken as hostages and taken back to Gaza by Hamas.
Well, actually, the day started a day earlier because I scheduled my shifts for that weekend in order to get them, so to speak, under my belt, so I'll have free time for the following 2 weeks because I had a busy schedule. So I said, okay, why don't you do this intense weekend, put in 3 shifts, and you're done with it. Okay. So I started the shift a day earlier, actually on Friday, and the shift kind of shift starts 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, 3. So I was doing the afternoon shift on Friday, which kind of because we took a patient to the hospital, and that was an episode in its own accord, but we took her and she was, we transferred to the hospital while she died on the way, and we submitted to her after doing CPA to the hospital alive, which that's another story, but that's, so the event went past midnight. So I got home past midnight and I had a few hours to sleep, and the clock didn't wake me up. I was tired. What woke me up was the massive bombardments at 6:30. So as I heard the bombardments, I jumped out of bed. I said, oh, I'm late. So I've just barely got dressed, made a cup of coffee on the way while dressing up, and rushed through the door to drive off to Sderot. So I drove, and as I was entering Sderot, I was not exactly awake. I need about 3 cups of coffee to get to wake up, and I was through my half once. So I was thinking to myself, said, look, the bombardments in Sderot, it gives you about 6-7 seconds. So don't be a hero, and do the maneuver that your ordered, whatever it is to do, and that is to lay flat on the asphalt, stop the car, and so that if there are any kind of ricochets or anything that's flying there, they won't hit you. If a missile hits you directly, nothing will help. Okay. And then I heard, as I was stopping the car, I heard gunshots
Yeah. So before this, you live in a moshav in the south of Israel. Yes. How far is your moshav, which is an agricultural community, away from Sderot, which is the nearest town to the Gaza Strip in the south of Israel, isn't it?
I think it's about 12 kilometers, which would be about 8 miles.
Yeah, 8 miles, yeah.
Okay, and I had to cover ground very fast, so I was driving. I won't tell you how much, but anyway. But so as I was nearing and heard gunshots, you can see, I think, maybe on this clip, you will see that I'm kind of trying to find out where the shooting originates. Okay. Having in mind that speed of bullet is 3 times the speed of sound. So once you hear the bullet, and if it's directed to you, it's too late. So all this registers with me as I'm kind of trying to observe, and then the shooting at me. All of a sudden I saw the 2 figures that were shooting at the car ahead of me, pointing their guns at me and shooting at me.
So let's have a look now at this very emotional and moving video produced by MDA UK, where Ophir is telling his story of what happened on October the 7th with UK celebrity Rob Rinder, and warning, there are graphic images in this video of the Hamas terrorist attack that occurred on that day.
Ophir, describe to me the morning of the 7th. Where were you?
I'm a volunteer at MDA in Sderot. I was on my way to morning shift. As I was driving, my cup of coffee on one hand, and I heard some explosive, a rocket or something of that nature. All of a sudden I hear gunshots. Now that's not typical to hear gunshots.
Is this the supermarket where you were?
Yeah, that's the supermarket. I'll take you right to where it happened. I was driving along here, stopping just before the roundabout.
Yeah.
I saw several people, men, and all of a sudden the guy turns to me and started shooting at me. So my best option was to run to the corner to break the line of fire. As I was running, I see a car from over there, so I waved him to escape. When you're shot at, you hit the ground. It takes 3 seconds to get somebody to have you in their sights.
Where were you going at that point?
They looked for the nearest point where I can stop his line of fire, trying to get things between me and them. So as I was running, they were already keen on somebody else coming up that way. And I hailed her and I say to her, "Come on here." I opened the door. I said, "Get out and run." She had a boy with her. He ran straight through the building to the other side. That's what saved them. The terrorists were already over here. As I ran along, I went crazily shouting for people that they're terrorists and to hide. So I went around the building and I came back. They weren't here, they already left. And I saw the massacre that they did to the white car. They shot them so much in the head that you didn't have a head yet left. You know, it was like with anger and fury. It was not human. The first thing I thought is, how can I help the people? Because I was looking for wounded. So I went to even looked for a pulse. And I said, gosh, they have no pulse. Can't you see they've got no head? How can they have a pulse? I saw that the car was open, and I saw that my phone, they've taken my phone, they've taken my stuff. I picked up this shirt, put it on, and went through the buildings to MDA.
Help me understand, if you can, what this shirt means. Why is this shirt important?
Well, I've got still a shift to do, don't I?
During the course of that day and the subsequent day, what did this building become for people?
This was like the headquarters of everything. As the day progressed, this became the center of Sderot in a sense. Later that Saturday, we started getting in with the ambulance, with the armored ambulance, and we started grouping the bodies over here on the asphalt. We had a whole mortuary, if you may.
This was a mortuary here.
Yeah, over here, yeah. And the worst was when the... Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Oh, it's
Give me a
important.
moment. When they brought in the bodies of the paratroopers, the worst thing was when they brought in the paratroopers' bodies. For me, that was the worst. It was like my kids.
Your kids,
I didn't see their faces. I couldn't look.
of course.
Volunteering makes you matter in the world. You make a change. And that's what we're about. We're making a change. In essence, MDA is the Jewish and Israeli spirit.
It's a Jewish and Israeli spirit.
Jewish and Israeli spirit, exactly.
Thank you.
Such a powerful and extremely moving video there of Ophir telling his story to Rob Rinder of what he went through on October the 7th. I just want to take you back because that video footage there was incredible. Seeing you drive into the centre of Sderot and then seeing Hamas terrorists, and one of them had that RPG and they were trying to hunt you down and kill you. Just take us back to that horrific moment when you knew that you came face to face with Hamas terrorists. What went through your mind then, and how did your military training kick in?
Shame. The amazing thing is that I realized I realized later on how fast the brain works when you're under stress and the adrenaline pumps up. Because what I felt was shame, because I had to calculate what am I going to do. Obviously, they were shooting at me. It's not the first time I was shot at, obviously. So it's if you stay, you die, but you can't respond. To that date, I never had a situation where I didn't have capability to retaliate. And over here, I just had nothing. Even rocks I didn't have to throw at them. So withdrawing from a situation, confronting somebody, withdrawing from being able to confront them, I felt a tremendous amount of shame that lingered on for days. Because we're trained to respond, we're trained to confront, we're trained to proceed, and we're not trained to withdraw. So it's a state of mind. People ask me, were I afraid? No, I was not afraid. There was no time to be afraid. You have to be, you have to process your actions, what you need to do. So my thought was, first of all, to retreat, to put the car between me and them, okay, as much as possible, and to do a maneuver which we fall to the ground, okay, and then rise up and fall to the ground again every 3 seconds in order to kind of dodge the bullets. As I was doing it, I saw there was a car coming in front of me. I don't know if you can realize it in that video, but it was a van approaching, and I kind of waved them off. And so I did the maneuver and I kind of crashed to the ground while I was waving them off. And looked for the shortest distance to a wall or something that I could break the line of fire, because they were shooting at my back. While I was running there, I was thinking every second you're going to feel the hit on the back, and when a bullet hits you, it's an impact. Okay, and I said, just as long as they don't hit me in the brain, in the head, sorry, then I'm okay. You know, things can be somehow patched up. But then I don't know, this was a godly intervention, and you can see that he's reloading the magazine. So he fired the whole magazine at my back. Not him, there were actually 11 of them. You don't see all of them in the video. They didn't capture all of them in this frame. But there were 11 of them. 3 of them were actively shooting at my back. And you can see he's replacing the magazine. That's 35 bullets in an AK-47. And he didn't hit, which is kind of wonder, at the distance, which was not more than 15 to 16 meters. It's very short range.
Yeah. So how did you prepare yourself for that mentally? Because you talked about, you know, being woken up by the rockets and missiles that were being fired at Israel from Hamas on that morning. I think some in the region of 3,000 rockets and missiles were fired that day, which is an incredible amount of rockets and missiles to be fired in Israel. So you thought, as you were driving to your MDA station in Sderot, that this was just a rocket and missile attack. Did you have any understanding that Eretz border had been breached, and now anything between 3,000 and 5,000 Hamas terrorists armed with weapons and guns and RPGs were on the loose, literally committing massacres in southern Israel on October the 7th?
Well, at the time, I myself, there was no communication. I didn't realize, I thought it was an isolated breach. I didn't understand the magnitude. Nobody could know. While I was supposedly escaping from the scene, I was looking for a means to communicate to the cavalry, you know, call up the troops to alert them. I couldn't find it because I left everything in the car, you know, the phone. And so I went looking for a phone, but 7 o'clock Saturday morning, not a lot of people are walking around, especially in this town. It's a very quiet town. So after this whole scenario, I put my shirt and dodged through on foot to the MDA station to try and as well to get there to see what's happening. I still didn't get the magnitude. The magnitude, I think, while I was walking, I saw the massacre, the aftermath that they left at that 10, 12 minutes. They shot a minibus full of elderly people waiting for the minibus to take them to the Red Sea resort. The car in front of me, it was a kind of a Renault van, kind of a commercial vehicle. The 2 men there were completely almost headless. That means they continued shooting at them from close range. Viciously. I mean, they knew they were dead and they continued. It's just psychopathic, for the lack of a better term, you know. And then I kind of jogged to the MDA station and was there from that point. As I came, just after me, we had an injured, another belly wound injured, and so we took care of that. And did a makeshift hospital there, ALS, Advanced Life Saving, BLS room, because in the dispatch center we don't really have means of treating people. So I took equipment off some ambulances there and made a hospital with beds and everything. There were, at the initial stage, there was only about 5 of us. So it was the 4 that were doing the night shift that should have been replaced, and myself that I came to replace. The others didn't make it that stage. So it was 5 of us that were actually at the station at that point. Thereon, as time progressed, more and more medics and paramedics walked in from their homes as well, dodging and then we understood the magnitude. We couldn't get through via the communication lines, the regular communication lines. Actually, the only communication lines we had were the MDA, because MDA is a separate communication system. That was the only ways to communicate. Yeah, so I was there until the next day, noontime.
Yeah. And Ophir, share with us how on that fateful day back on Saturday, the 7th of October, that you were put in a position where you could save other Israeli lives in Sderot that day from Hamas.
Well, as I was retreating from the shootings that were shooting, I saw there was a van coming my way, and instinctively I waved him off. So and then I fell to the ground, as I was trying to do before that. So as you can see, I'm kind of waving them off. I completely forgot about them, by the way, and they saw my gesture. They saw them actually shooting at me. They saw the gunmen. They saw me fall to the floor, and they were assured that I fell as a result of being shot at and killed. They swayed off it was the boulevard, okay, and reversed and drove off from there. And they were saved. 2 men that were going on a bicycle training session Saturday morning. Okay, so they were in the van with the bicycles in the van, and they escaped from there. These 2 men, a few days later, they understood that from the media that I was alive and who I was. Apparently they work out the same gym that, or country club actually, that I train as a swim coach. I'm a swim coach. So so they called me up, very emotional, happy that I'm alive. And then I realized who they were, which is amazing. It's such a small areas with not a lot of people, so everybody knows everybody literally. Following my fall and rising up again and running to the nearest corner of the building to cut the line of fire, went looking for a phone. My phone, I left it at the car, the engine running and everything. So I was looking for a way to call upon the cavalry. Okay, but there was no phones. So I said to myself, if I don't go back, anybody coming down that road is going to be killed. So I turned around and headed back to where I ran from.
Put the current shirt that you're wearing.
No, that was later on. Before that, I just headed back, and then I saw a car emerging from the same venue that I did, okay, and they were shooting at. Apparently, it was a woman with a teenager, and they were shooting at her. They shot the car but missed her, and I kind of waved her towards me, and she heeded my motion and came in through it's one-way street. Actually, she drove through the one-way street, and hence I pulled her out of the car and told her to run one direction, to the kid to run to another direction, and stayed there for a while. And then they came back again and shot at me. That was the second time they shot at me. Oof. If you look closely, and then I ran off. Following that, returned again, and ran around the building, hoping that they wouldn't recognize me, or maybe that they left. And I saw that they left the place and took my shirt from the car and headed towards the MDA dispatch station. And on the way, I saw the massacre that they created, literally beheading people with gunfire and shooting 13 elderlies, as I said, and the people in the van in front of me.
So what happened when you got back to the MDA dispatch centre and you met up with your colleagues from MARDA? Then were you assessing the situation? Were you informing them of what was happening? Just share with us the situation that you faced when you actually finally reached safety, which was the headquarters of MDA in Sderot.
Well, they actually they attacked me about 250 yards from the dispatch center. Okay, the dispatch center was one of their focuses to attack in the future that day. I understand that at that time they were just going around on the main roads and shooting whatever they could. Even dogs, they even shot dogs. I mean, just literally anything they could see. As I reached the dispatch center, so I came to replace the night shift. So there were there four people, 2 people per ambulance, and I. And as I reached there, it was very surreal because Saturday morning there's like no movement, no action. It's very quiet, in a sense. As I got to the station, they brought in the first wounded to the station. Not us. Somebody came and dropped him off. Okay, a civilian. And we just had to operate on him there and then. Okay, he had a chest wound, and his lung was collapsing, so we had to take care of that immediately. As I was helping the paramedic that was on the scene, he said, "Look, Ophir, we need to do a makeshift hospital. This is big. We are understanding that this is big." We didn't really have communication outside, but we have procedures, okay? So if this comes about, we need to act. You go to the extreme, okay? So I started cleaning up, taking out the furniture, everything's throwing it out, and putting in army beds. We have these in the shed outside. Taking out the equipment from the ambulances, the monitors, everything, and I did 2 rooms, one in the ALS and one at BLS, basic life-saving and advanced life-saving. Advanced life-saving is operations, injections, everything to a makeshift hospital. And as the day progressed, we brought in more wounded. Every ambulance that at the beginning that we went out with was shot at, and another friend of mine, a medic, was shot in the belly, and it was actually operated because he couldn't return to this dispatch station. They isolated us in a sense, okay, so we were kind of surrounded. He drove to another paramedic, a friend of ours, obviously, and there the paramedic operated on him and saved his life in the kitchen with his family.
Amazing.
Kids and wife.
So how do you keep calm and how do you keep rational in what is a terrifying, surreal situation that you literally see Sderot, the town that you know and love, being overrun by Hamas terrorists?
Well, still we didn't know that we were overrun yet, you know. The first thing that you do is, first of all, how much firepower do we have? Assessment, you need to do assessment. So the assessment was, we have one pistol, not very powerful, between us, and that's what we have against AK-47s, RPGs, rocket launchers, whatever they had. They had also machine guns. Okay, AK-47 is a powerful gun, but machine gun is much more. It has a much greater penetration. So one of us was just by the door of the dispatch where we keep the ambulances. Okay, we locked everything else, and one of us was just holding the pistol and waiting. Okay, for them to come. They were driving up and down. You know, they took my phone from the car. And when I Googled it and saw that my phone was all over town, they drove with it all over town after they took it. So you don't have time. We are trained to eliminate emotions. You have to concentrate. You have to focus. You can't think about yourself. You have to think about the bigger picture. You have to think about the others. The adrenaline is very high.
Yep, can imagine.
So obviously, look, I wasn't even tired. I was for, what was it, from 7 in the morning until noon the next day. I didn't sleep. None of us slept. Okay, and you're not tired because the adrenaline is there. So you have to focus. You have to focus. That's the way to overcome and to be active, as we do in the military, you know.
Also, what happened at start that time as well is that Hamas took control of the police station, didn't they?
Yeah, we got word about that. It was to us devastating that we couldn't do anything. We couldn't help. We couldn't do anything. There was a battle there of 8 or 9 hours with very heroic people, a policewoman that kept them at bay until she had no more bullets left. There were a lot of injured there, a lot of dead. They came prepared, they came focused. As a military operation, they did it.
Just share with us the actual Hamas attack on October the 7th, the fact that they used paragliders, particularly against the partygoers at the Nova Music Festival. They breached Eretz crossing between Gaza and Israel, which everyone, including yourself, would have thought was actually unpenetrable. And then the sheer magnitude and the scale of what happened in the aftermath of that. I mean, I've seen the destruction at Kibbutz Nir Oz with the RPGs and what happened there. I've seen the destruction of the cars at the Nova Music Festival. And the one thing you get when you're there and you see the aftermath of this was the absolute sheer scale of this thing, which was not being reported by our mainstream media in any way, stretching the imagination. So just share with us the incredibly prepared military tactics carried out by Hamas on that evil day, and how that this is essentially what they did amounts to war crimes and genocide.
Well, to break down your question, I will begin with the intelligence that they collected for years on us. So we would let them in, obviously, to work for us. Okay, so they'll have a source of income. And so what they really did was they worked, but they collected intelligence: who's who, who's living where, the amount of troops, the amount of vehicles, where MDA is, where the police are. They went and did a very meticulous job in collecting information and intelligence for this very day. Okay. Second of all is they have no qualms as being inhumane to do inhumane acts where we do. Okay, so if you are shooting at me and you throw your gun away and you put a white handkerchief or put your hands up, I won't shoot at you. As a paratrooper, as a military person, our ways of doing things, our ways of training even, is that we are protectors versus aggressors. Okay, we will be aggressive in order to protect, but we won't just go and shoot anybody just for the heck of it, where they will. And they have sheer enjoyment in it. And that's what I could see. I could see that they had sheer enjoyment. And if you look closely at the videos, I don't know if you can see it, you can see they're enjoying it. Now, when you enjoy this kind of a thing, that means you're a psychopath. Are they all psychopaths? Well, I don't know. I'll let you be the judge of that. But the thing is, I will not execute an unlawful order. And unlawful order is very defined by the Israeli military and by any other military. You don't shoot at somebody who's unarmed. You don't shoot at women and children. You don't shoot at anybody that cannot respond to you. They cannot retaliate. That's the civilized way. Okay? And I trained my soldiers. I was trained by my commanders. Okay? And we're very clear and defined by this. They have no such guidelines, no such any kind of definitions of what is right and what is wrong.
No moral compass whatsoever. No moral compass or no understanding of morality.
They would claim that they are moral, but their morals are different than the Judeo-Christian morals in my book. They're different.
Ophir, just share with us how Hamas deliberately targeted MDA on October the 7th by shooting at ambulances, and sadly that day 27 members of MDA were murdered by Hamas on that day.
Yeah.
Your colleagues.
Well, I think they enjoyed shooting at the MDA. It's a nice big colorful target, very difficult to miss. The ambulance, you know, it's got nice bright yellow or nice bright white, depends if it's an ALS or a BLS. And so this is an easy target. And since they know that an ambulance doesn't carry any kind of soldiers and does not have firepower, what an easier target than an ambulance to shoot at. So that's why the MDA was hit so bad. We don't have any armored vehicles, so it's, as we say, a walk in the park. You just shoot, that's it. Nothing fires back.
And just share with us your thoughts while you're in the MDA station waiting for the IDF to arrive on the scene and to clear up the Hamas terrorists that were still in Sderot and in the neighbouring areas around there. And it took about 3 days, I think, for the IDF to completely mop up the Hamas terrorists and make those areas safe again after the horrors of what happened on October the 7th.
Well, to set the record straight, the military, which I still consider myself their part of, okay, which is very dear to me, surprisingly was not there until 2 o'clock sharp. 2 o'clock sharp, massive amounts of soldiers did come. It was 2 o'clock. So between 7 and 2, something happened. We didn't get the cavalry in. What happened there will be analyzed to death in the future, probably. And they started doing the operations and clearing the place up. I think that close to nightfall, I think in Sderot, we started to see a better picture of what's going on. And I remember that we took the ambulance and drove off to this this young lady that had a panic attack, and she somehow called us and reached us, and we drove. We took her to the hospital. We couldn't go directly because there were still terrorists there, so we did a kind of a whole circle to reach the hospital in order not to be shot at. So, but some of the lot was already cleaned up, supposedly, by nightfall. Okay.
Excellent. We're down to the last minute and a half of the program, but for our viewers watching and being absolutely listening and watching you tell your compelling story, how can they support the incredible work being done by Magen David Adom in saving lives in Israel and supporting incredible paramedics or heroes like you, Ophir?
Well, first of all, it's I think the most important thing is to realize what happened, to vocalize it, not to let this just pass through. That's the most important thing, because I believe that the Christian world should rally behind us. I think we are the canaries, basically, for the future. I mean, the future would be, could be happening everywhere. This is one thing. Another thing is we're right now trying to gear up on equipment and on the armored vehicles, and we still have threats, as we know, from the north, from the west, and from the east. And we don't know what turn of events are going to happen.
Ophir, I just want to thank you so much for being my special guest on the Middle East Report today. Thank you so much for telling your incredible story. Our prayers are with you, and thank you for your bravery and courage on October the 7th and saving the lives that you did. And you're an inspiration to us all, so thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for watching this program. This is so important, this interview. Please share this interview with your friends and with colleagues, because it's so important to know what happened on October the 7th. I want to thank you for watching today's edition of the Middle East Report.